All right, we're back in Glamour, and we're going to do section 1 today, and it's called The Nature of Glamour. We covered on Sundays, we do a treatise on white magic. And being that we started this and we're doing that, there's so much overlap, and they really work together in such a really great way. It really should be both read not in conjunction, I don't want to say, but close to each other, because this reading that we're doing is it's really eye-opening as we're combining the two. All right, so the nature of glamour. In the preceding pages, we dealt with certain definitions of the words frequently used interchangeably, dealing with illusion and glamour. We found that one, illusion is primarily of a mental quality and was characteristic of the attitude of mind of those people who are more intellectual than emotional. They have outgrown glamour as usually understood. It is the misunderstanding of ideas and thought forms of which they are guilty and of misinterpretations. Glamour is astral in character and is far more potent at this time than illusion, owing to the enormous majority of people who function astrally always. 3, Maya, is vital in character and is a quality of force. It is essentially the energy of the human being as it swings into activity through the subjective influence of the mental illusion or astral glamour, or of both in combination. Okay, let's read that again. It's the energy of the human being as it swings into activity through the subjective influence of the mental illusion or astral glamour, or of both in combination. Boy, is that interesting. That's something that I don't know that I want to try to put that in my own words. It's like I mean, actually, you don't need to, because it's vital in character and is a quality of force. So as the energy swings into activity, it has this, it's colored by this mental illusion or astral glamour. And then we have 4, the dweller on the threshold, always present, swings, however, into activity only on the path of discipleship when the aspirant becomes occultly aware of himself, of the conditions induced within him as a result of his interior illusion, his astral glamour, and the Maya surrounding his life. This is so wild. Especially when we start looking at things in terms of energy. If we're looking at this in terms of energy and forces, and now we're looking at the quality of these forces on the lower 3 planes, and then it says here, we become aware of ourselves. The aspirant becomes aware of himself, of the conditions induced within him as a result of his interior illusion, which is mental, his astral glamour, and the Maya surrounding his entire life. and that's the character and quality of force. Being now an integrated personality, and no one is a disciple, my brother, unless he is mental as well as emotional, which is a point the devotee often forgets. These three conditions, with the preponderance of the effect in one or other of the bodies, are seen as a whole, and to this whole the term the dweller on the threshold is applied. It is in reality a vitalized thought form, embodying mental force, astral force, and vital energy. You know, that makes that seems to make sense, as abstract an idea as that is. Because at some point we should be identifying the dweller, our dweller on the threshold, and we should see how it's functioning. We should be able to see the glamours that keep pulling us back or towards back to the lower three. We should be able to identify them. Like, what is it that has you? What's pulling you in this world to continue? You know, what in the lower three has you enthralled? Right? What glamour do you have? Be it business, professional, educational, spiritual. What's your ego? What's the ego? What's the personality desire? Right. And then, you know, as far as the illusions go on the mental plane, you know, that's a mistaken perception, as we're seeing, right? These are misinterpretations. So these others are combined with that and just making us kind of foolish, right? So the dweller is making us, it's our foolishness, essentially, and what's left of it that needs to be dispelled, essentially. And it's a lot. And even when we think we become very clear, these things still come up. And it's not a quick thing. It just doesn't disappear in the blink of an eye, as we for most of us anyway. I can't speak for anybody, for everybody, but for most of us, this is a very gradual process, especially when we're students of the ageless wisdom. And he says this is not the fastest process, but this is probably what he would deem being what is going to has the most likelihood of making the individual or aiding the individual in being a master of the wisdom, because of all of this that you're putting into your to your bank, to your knowledge bank, and to this is hugely important. And this is going to aid in the long run, but it is slower in process, and it's meant to be, and it's also more precise. Anyway, I got a little bit off there, but dwelling on those applied. It's a thought form embodying mental force, astral force, and vital energy. So it's so interesting. The problem, therefore, before all of you in this group is to learn, first of all, one, to distinguish between these three inner illusory aspects. I think that's not a huge stretch. I think that can happen pretty quickly, especially as we're looking at glamour being more astral and the illusions being more mental. and Maya kind of being that wrapping this it's like the wrapping of both, right? So when we understand this in ourselves, we can begin to see this in others very simply and immediately almost. If you want it to be, it's there. So two, to discover what conditions in the environment or in the individual constitution induce these situations of difficulty. What is it that is kicking it off in you? What grabs you and pulls you down, or pulls you into this what pulls you into, I don't know the word for that, right? What pulls you into the that mind, that going from being very clear to being clouded over? What is it? Is it other people? Is it the thought, a certain thought of something? Is it some unworked out business thing, or some some goal that you had set for yourself that you didn't get to do? Is it astrological retrogrades in your chart that keep you going through the process? So we need to be able to identify these things and work with it. Find out what methods are effective in inducing a cessation of the bewildering, deceiving conditions. All right, so oftentimes, just a quick meditation, or a couple affirmations that have been given throughout these books should do it. And I don't remember what they are. I have, I've had my own, affirmations, and they work. I did the program with the University of Metaphysics, and that program was great for it. I mean, it was great for, I didn't know much about metaphysics or anything, and I started it, and I followed along, and there were, affirmations were a part of it, and it's the whole bachelor's part of it is lots of metaphysical practices, and I found it to be hugely helpful at that point in my life, from changing, negative aspects into positive, and then that positivity kind of became, peaceful, and it led to the middle way, really, the razor's edge path, ultimately. So, distinguish between the three inner illusory aspects, discover what conditions in the environment or in the individual constitution induce these situations of difficulty, and then find out what methods are effective in inducing a cessation of the bewildering, deceiving conditions. It must be remembered also that these distorting conditions found in all of you are the medium whereby you are tuned in on the world, glamour, and illusion. The medium whereby you are tuned in on the world, glamour, and illusion. It's funny that this comes up today. Yesterday was the Super Bowl. I did not watch football. I did not watch the Super Bowl. But you know what? I had one of those small bags of potato chips during the Super Bowl, and I was thinking to myself, I wonder if this was just an impulse from the collective that's eating, stuff in our faces with potato chips all over the dang country right now. And then I had this urge to go get a dang bag of potato chips. So that was interesting. So we have to be watching these things and really paying attention to ourselves. The emphasis has been laid in esoteric teaching on the training and liberation of the individual aspirant. This is, of course, necessary for the masses made up of the individuals, and in the steady release from the control of these inner delusions will come the eventual clarification of humanity. Therefore, each of you in this group must of necessity work separately and apart with himself and learn to induce those conditions of clarity and truth which will overcome the ancient rhythms and deep-seated habits and thus steadily purify the aura. But this has now to be done as a group, and this group constitutes one of the first of the exoteric groups with which it is intended to work in the new age. Through the activity of such groups, the world glamour will be dissipated, but first of all, the aspirant must learn to deal with the individual and group glamour. It is necessary to remember the following three things. I'm going to be brief and technical in teaching this group, for my time is short and you have an adequate technical knowledge with which to understand what whereof I speak. First, the united auras of the group members have ever determined the group condition. The united auras of the group members ever determine the group condition. The group activity, usefulness, problem, and glamour. Hence emerges individual group responsibility and individual usefulness. Each of you either hinders or aids the group according to his auric condition, which is either in a state of glamour or illusion, or is kept relatively free from these conditions. Second, that the first job that each of you has to do is to determine his own peculiar problem. In giving you your individual instructions, I will take up with you in this instruction where the particular tendency in the direction of each of you lies, and whether it's glamour, illusion, or Maya, to which you habitually succumb. I will deal with directness, for I have tested your sincerity and believe in your willingness to be told the truth. Once you have each determined the specific nature of your peculiar problem, you can then work with deliberation towards its solution. With deliberation, brother of old, and with no speed, but with due care and caution and with right understanding. I can tell you some of the things that helped me and have been helping me is one, the astrology chart does help. Knowing the personality profile and what our disposition is basically, and what we're, that does help. A node analysis, the analysis of our nodes, and which basically shows us the direction that our life is supposed to be going and what we are to accomplish in this life. Now that's some deep stuff, but our astrologer, Carla, our astrologer and mentor, Carla, she does the node analysis, and it'll knock you off your feet. You already know this information, but it needs to be pulled out of you. And in that node analysis, it does that. So if you're fighting the direction that your life is supposed to be going, well, now you're not in the flow, right? You're not in the stream essentially, and it's going to be much harder to get in the stream of consciousness, and because you're fighting it. And then also a good hard look at our retrogrades and what retrogrades actually are, understanding retrogrades, understanding our own retrogrades, and an awareness of seeing how they actually play out in our lives is huge. I mean, this is huge. And Michael Robbins has said that part of the next teaching that's to come in 2025, the next installation of teachings is going to have more to do with astrology. And I believe that this is going to, and I don't know anything, I'm saying, but if you were to get your node analysis and your retrogrades done, you'll see how hugely important that is to understand. And it hasn't been discussed very much previously. I want to say this is a newer type of understanding, and is very hugely beneficial. So that, in my opinion, and in my subjective mind, these are the things that have helped, and really just constant awareness and knowing our ascendant and knowing, where this goes, and knowing the signs and what the labors in those signs are, really can give you some of the glamour that you're going to be, and Maya that you're going to be wrapped with. And I want to say, glamour implies illusion, and glamour and illusion imply, well, it could be the other way around too. It could be that these things are implied and from the top down, because where there's illusion, there's going to be glamour, and the more illusion, the more glamour, but it has to be worked out. Glamour first, essentially, and then illusion. Yep, it's deep stuff. But as we know, we are working on all these things at one time. So who knows? That's my thought. And I don't claim to know anything, or to be or to have all the right information. I'm just pondering with you based on my understanding. Thirdly, you must remember that as I look at the individual in any of these groups, I can at the same time gauge the quality of the group itself as a whole, the amount of inner light that can shine through and make its presence felt in your auras can be seen by me and indicate to me the strength and the efficiency and also the potency of your individual group influence. For the positive auras subordinate the negative auras. What is required is a combination of positive auras deliberately subordinated to group work. Yeah, this, of course. And that, this is a hard thing. Even we've had what I saw potentially as an opportunity to work together as a little small group, and it dissipated pretty quickly. And I didn't understand why myself, because we're reading white magic and such, and maybe the others just weren't reading the same material or actually studying more, because this is an exciting thing. I want to say, to be a part of a group, to know you're a part of the group, to know how you're affecting the group. And there's even more on you, more reason to work when you know it's for the whole. Right. So, it's just, it takes, it requires commitment. And I guess an ability to see these things, actually, just even to see that on the physical plane is probably, difficult maybe to even get to that point. I don't know. Uh, What is required is all right, positive auras. Yep, we understand that. As the Maya of distorted energy currents ceases to swing you into lines of undesirable activity, the light that is in you will shine forth with greater clarity. Incidentally, the dweller on the threshold will slowly and surely disintegrate and leave your way to the door of initiation, free and unimpeded. I definitely had seen, you can see at some point when there's not a whole lot left, the issues that are left become much more prominent and prominent. And you would think that because they would be so blatantly obvious in your life that you could get rid of them easier. Well, guess what? They're the last hanging around for good reason, because they're the most stubborn and are the hardest to get rid of. You got rid of the easy ones first, probably. And the ones that linger are the hardest to get rid of. And then we have to, that now we have to deal on these issues. And a lot of them are the same for many of us at the base of it, the things holding us to the physical, holding us down in the lower three. I imagine that we're all probably coming from the same sort of places there. It's not hard to imagine what they might be either, but I'm not going to go into that right now. Strongly mental types are subject to illusion. This illusion in reality, this illusion is in reality a condition wherein the aspirant is being definitely controlled by a thought form of such potency that it does two things. A, controls the life activity or output, and B, tunes the aspirant in on the mass thought forms, which are of a similar nature and which are built by others under the dominance of a similar illusion. Yeah, and we are connected to that collective, many of us, right? This, in its worst aspect, produces mental insanity or idea fix. I don't know what that is. It's a French word, I assume there. I don't know what it is. But in its least dangerous and normal result, produces the fanatic. The fanatic is usually, even if he realizes it not, a bewildered man who has a potent idea of some kind or another, but who finds it quite impossible to integrate it into the world picture, to make those needed and often divinely directed compromises to make those needed and often divinely directed compromises which profoundly help humanity to find the time or place for the realities which are within his natural grasp. When a man is highly developed, the mental illusion is built around a definite intuition, and this intuition is concretized by the mind until its appearance is so real that the man believes he sees so clearly that which should be done or given to the world, what he spends his time endeavoring in a fanatical manner to make others see it too. Thus his life slips away on the wings of illusion, and his incarnation is a relatively profitless one. In a few cases, this combination of intuition and mental activity produces the genius in some field or another, but then there is no illusion but clear thinking, coupled with a trained equipment in that particular field or enterprise. 3, the weaker and more average mental types of people succumb to the general field of illusion and of mass illusion. The mental plane manifests a different sort of distortion to that of the astral plane or the etheric. The faculty of discrimination, which is being developed, has produced sharper lines of demarcation, and instead of the dense fogs and mists of the astral plane or the swirling tides and currents of energy of the etheric plane, we have on the mental plane masses of sharply indicated thought forms of a particular quality and note and tone, around which are grouped lesser thought forms created by those who respond to these thought forms and to their note, quality, and tone. Similarities are then seen to exist, which constitute channels or avenues for the magnetic drawing power of the more potent thought forms. Ancient theologies in modern garb, fixed presentations of half-truth, the wild thinking of various world groups, and many similar emanating sources have, down the ages, produced a world of illusion and those mental states which have held humanity prisoner to wrong concepts and thoughts. Boy, that is so clear, right? Fixed presentations of half-truth. If that doesn't hit us, ancient theologies in modern garb, the wild thinking of various world groups. Man, it's so clear that we're sitting in the middle of this down here. So many are these thought-producing illusions. So many are these thought-producing illusions that the effect in the world today has been to cause a general division of the human race into varying schools of thought. So this is part of what creates separation. Philosophy, science, religion, sociology, etc., into many parties and groups, all of them colored by an analogous idea, into groups of idealists fighting each other on behalf of their pet concepts, and into tens of thousands of participants in group mental activity. Right. These are today producing the world literature through which the world platforms are colored. By their means, the world leaders are inspired, and they are responsible at this time for the massive experiments in the field of government, of education, of religion, which are producing so much of the world unrest and consequently so much of the world illusion. And this is the Kali Yuga, right? This is what is meant by we're wrapped in this mass time of nonsense, essentially. And it is nonsense. It's not clear thinking. And it's not, when it's wrapped in emotion and it's wrapped in desire to achieve something, or get something, or lead people one way or another, or sway, or when that's what it is, it's a delusion. What is needed, therefore, at this time are thinkers who are training themselves in that mental attitude and one-pointedness, which is divorced from the danger of a negative receptivity and is responsive at the same time to the higher intuitional inspiration. It is mediating interpreters of ideas that are needed and not mediums. That makes sense. Somebody needs to stand up and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. What are you talking about over here? What are you talking about over here? That is not, either one of those is not the way. And let's talk about this, and let's look and see. Now, here's the issue, is just because we can see this, and we can, is once you have dealt on this, on a majority of it yourself, you can see straight through it. The problem is when you're dealing with others who have not yet confronted any of their own issues. At that point, I don't even know that the mediating is worth it, because I don't know that they can see through the storm at all. I don't know. You can try. It may be fruitless. But this is what's needed. But there need to be level-headed minds who are also holding the ideas and being open. It must be open to the mediation. Right. The emotional types respond with facility to world glamour and to their own individual inherited and self-induced glamour. The bulk of the people are purely emotional, with occasional flashes of real mental understanding. Very occasionally, my brother, and usually entirely absent. What's absent there is real mental understanding. And what is usually there is purely emotional. Glamour has been linked to a mist or fog in which the aspirant wanders, and which distorts all that he sees in context, preventing him from ever seeing life truly or clearly, or the conditions surrounding him as they essentially are. When he is a somewhat advanced aspirant, he is aware of the glamour and occasionally sees in a flash what direction truth for him may lie. But when again the glamour settles down upon him and he is rendered powerless to release himself or to do anything constructive. But then again, the glamour settles down upon him and he's unable to do anything constructive. His problem becomes further complicated by his consequent distress and his deep disgust with himself. All of that is, I mean, if your hatred of anything isn't your own, your own ignorance, I don't know what is, right? Like that's one of the hardest things we have to fight with is our own BS. He walks ever in a fog and sees not as it truly exists. He is deceived by the appearance and forgets that which the appearance veils. The emanatory astral reactions which each human being initiates ever surround him. And through this mist and fog, he looks out upon a distorted world. These reactions and the surrounding aura which they constitute blend and merge with the world glamour and fog and form part of the miasmas and unhealthy emanations for which the masses of men for millions of years are responsible. So, and again, it's our fault. And we know this is our fault because the whole chain here is really distorted. The whole chain of events, all of our desires are distorted at this point. We have to look and ask why we desire anything, and if these things are beneficial, and then we can even look at the things that we did desire and see the chain that led to that desire and how really corrupt and perverted all these desires end up being. You know, because you wanted this, this is what history looks like, essentially. And you can do that either way. You can go, history did this, so now I think or have this tendency. Or you can even look at it like, why do I want this? And then what is the origin? And now we're looking symbolically, right? And we're going, you know, all the way back. We're looking at reason at this point. And you know, we have to go all the way back with it to see, you know, this whole chain. And I'm saying, for instance, you know, like this computer, like just a computer. You want a computer, but what led to that? And what are the implications of it? What were the desires? What's the desire for it? This is so incredibly deep, and I don't want to make a fool of these words, because there's no words that I can think of to, you know, get that out properly. But this is ancient. It goes all the way back, and that's what DK is saying here. These glamours built on each other, and it was just like a storm that just kept growing, essentially, and distorting, and led to more. The initial glamours led to more glamours. The initial desires, you know, fed in on the rest. That's basically what I'm saying. And you can look at any of these desires in your life and see where they came from, essentially, and see what was all required to get them to this point that they're still coming up in your beingness, in our beingness. And he says, you know, it's really ancient. No, I don't remember what I did here. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, and it you know, it's funny because he says the mass of men for millions of years were responsible, and it's absolutely true. And there's, you know, you can't pinpoint anything on anybody, and that's one of the things I want to say. You know, you learn early on in the path is there's nobody to blame, no matter what your life, you know, looks like. You can't blame anyone. You can't blame the teachers, can't blame family. You can only look to yourself, and then it only matters at that point, essentially, right? And then the rest is lessons that got you to that point. Because what you're seeing is these glamours colored everyone up to you. So you can't blame your teachers who are engulfed in this. You can't blame your family members who were engulfed in this. They were engulfed in it because their family members were engulfed in it prior to them. This has happened in generations, and then ages, and then the whole thing. There's nobody to blame. It's just us. So this is such an incredible topic, but when we're talking through this, we are literally talking through it. We're like moving away these fogs and mists by getting this out of the way, and we're clearing our environment. It's a constant process of clearing, and that's what we're doing. We don't let anything linger. We have to, we push it off, and we deal on it, and we look at it, and we confront it, and then we can be done with it. I'm going to leave it there for the day, because this is, this is a lot. There's no, like I said, and there's no point in just keep going and going and going and going. We can only handle so much at a time. You really only need a couple good seed thoughts per day, and good contemplations. And if we can help see into these contemplations a little bit deeper, then that's really beneficial. If we can, seeing others' perspectives is hugely helpful. And that's why I don't have a problem doing this, because that's why I enjoy, I always enjoy hearing others' perspectives, because whether they're especially higher perspectives about these topics, because there's validity in a lot of it. Now, technically we could be wrong about this or that, and relatively speaking, we're probably wrong about all of it, because otherwise we would just be already attained. We've already would have attained, and then things would be probably very different at that point. But we're all dealing on this common monastic type of astral mental work right now, and trying to get to soul levels and abstract levels and intuitional levels. So helping each other through this is hugely important, and perspective widens our view a bit. Other people's experience, whether it's not going to be your experience, but other people's experience, and hearing that, to me, was greatly beneficial. So I have there's no problem talking about this stuff as far as I'm concerned. All right, we'll get back on it again tomorrow. Have a good one.